you watch any play Wixoss?
All right, let's get this started. So thank you guys for coming to my panel, Protector of Smiles, Okada Mari. I'm a cutscene. And so in 2 months I spent doing research for this, preparing, worrying, having like nightmares that I missed my panel. And now, the night before, thanks to Crunchyroll being so kind to us, I got to stay up all night and not sleep and get extra material just for you guys.
His neighbor?
You bet. So we will get to that. It's pretty interesting. So let's just get started. Like, who is Okada? And this is pretty much a summary that the Wikipedia summary, right? She's about 40 years old, born in 1976. Her first anime script was in 1998. So over, like 18 years by now, since her very first script to the position she's made now. And she does 2 things as a writer, which I'll get into in a few slides. She does series composition and script writing. And so these are 2 slightly different things depending on what anime that she's writing at the time. She's extremely prolific, so basically she writes tons of anime. I cover about 12 to 13 of them. She's done dozens and dozens, like 40 to 50 overall her years, and she's like still going strong. And just one award she won was the Kobe Animation Award in 2011. And to give some context to this award was also won by Hayao Miyazaki and Hideaki Anno. So you probably know her from things like Hamtaro, Aria, Rosa Maiden, Fate Stay Night, right? That's what she's famous for, right guys? I know. This is just simple scripts. Back when she was getting started, she did a couple things. What you probably more likely know her from are anime like Oromusko, Toradora, more recently Kofu Graffiti, or even Sketchbook or Sakura Cell. So we're not going to talk about any of those anime in the past 2 slides at all. So just kind of to get back to what she does exactly. So yes, using very convenient Shirobako images to explain what she does. So I'm kind of skipping out and like stripping down to the parts that are relevant and important to what she does exactly. So the director basically comes up with the general idea, right? I mean, it's not just him, he discusses it with producers and discusses it with series composition, which is what Okada also does. So basically you can see it's a collaboration between 2 of them to kind of get the outline for the plot, all the characters, what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. This is then passed on to the scriptwriters. Now, in all the anime that Okada does, as series composition, she also writes the scripts. But you'll see that she doesn't always write every script, and that when she doesn't do them herself, some kind of weird things happen. If I have time, I'll get to some of the inconsistencies that appear. But you know that when she does every script, it's going to be great. The script is actually kind of the backbone of every episode of anime. It's not simply the lines that they say, it's kind of like the screenplay that we use, that we say in English. So it has the characters and their lines, who's present, what they're doing, and then other things that are then used by the storyboarder to kind of turn words into pictures. In this process, it goes back and forth between the scriptwriter and the director over and over, kind of supervised by the series composition, before finally getting written, drawn out, and then passed on to everyone else, all the animators, the voice actors, and basically everyone who makes the nitty-gritty of the anime that you see, and that's easy to see. So how Okada kind of got to the point she is now, in one of her interviews, she explains a game she used to play, kind of with herself, in elementary and middle school. So it doesn't have a name, so we'll dub it the Okada game. Basically, in her classes, because every year in Japan, you go with one class, and you're with the same classmates all year for everything. So in alphabetical order, basically she first imagines being best friends with each girl for a little while, and she imagines what kind of things would we do? Where would we go? What would we talk about? And then after that, or maybe at the same time, she might switch it up a bit, depending on what's interesting at the time. She alphabetically imagines dating each boy, including the ones she doesn't like. And in fact, she mentions that the ones she hated were actually the most interesting stories. You can kind of feel and see some of these influences later on. as she gets into her stories and how much she writes about romance and love. So what I'm going to be talking about today are her originally composed anime. So these are anime that have an original story. It's not based on anything, not a manga, novel, light novel, game, etc., etc. She did the series composition, which means she had the main control over the writing for the entire thing. And this includes anime that have some or all scripts. Okay, and for numbers, I have 12 completed, 1 in progress, that's Gundam, and 1 upcoming, which is Kids Nightmare. There's also another one she's doing that I don't talk about, Mayoinga or something, but in any case, pronunciation.
I think the title that will be localized as is Lost Village.
Lost Village, thanks. So whatever it is, it has a lot of characters. I didn't research it, but we will get to some interesting things. Warning, there will be spoilers. You'll see about people who die, except nobody cares about who dies. It's about who cries. Yes, these anime are not necessarily all about crying, but most of them included. So, fair warning for her 12 plus originally composed anime, there will be spoilers, because I'm talking about plot details, some of which are in the very end of the final episodes. So now kind of into a kind of a brief overview of the anime. The first one she did was actually called Sasami Magical Girls Club. It's a spin-off of Tenchi Muyo. Sasami is used kind of a common character in the whole universe, but because it's so different from the original series, I count this as her first original work. It was way back in spring of 2006, so 10 years ago now. It was 1 core. It actually had a 2nd season, which she did the composition for, but not all the scripts, which I didn't get to, but basically she did every script for this 1st season. And you can actually see that even though it's simple, there's still hints of what's to come, and elements she likes included. Her first major work that people consider like her breakout, her breakthrough, is True Tears. True Tears is very controversial. There are some people who will tell you it has, 7 or 8 episodes. Rewatching it myself, I couldn't even tell which of the episodes people like to stop at, because both of them end in cliffhangers that have hanging plot points and don't conclude the story in any meaningful way. So when they say that, they really mean episode 7, minute 20, or episode 8, like minute 19. Don't go past, or else you might see the cliffhanger that changes everything. It was 1 quarter, she only did 5 episode scripts, but what happened in this anime is that she had very strict control over the other 2 writers. So what happens is that you really see her style, or the beginnings of her style in every episode. There aren't any inconsistencies that you might see later on. So everything's really kind of tightly done. Yes, it's also based on a visual novel that is named True Tears, but has nothing to do with the series. Not the same characters, not the same setting, but they're included. Lacrima, the company that produced the game, is included in the credits. After this, so that was 2 years after her first work. The next year she does Kanan. Kanan is a PA Works anime, and PA Works, and I think this is her first work with them, or her first original work, and she keeps coming back to them as a company. This is also 1 core, and she did every script of the episode of the series. So you know that every episode is meaningful, and the things that happen in them are all happening for a reason. This is actually, I know I said it was original, but it's technically a sequel side story to a game for the Wii called 428 Fusasarata Shibura. English translation doesn't matter because it doesn't exist and it doesn't matter. Interestingly, the scenario for this was written by Type Moon, so of Fate Stay Night, and Tsukihime, and Karma Kyokai fame. And the 2 guys in that are Nazu Kinoko and Takeuchi Takashi. If you look at the anime, it's really obvious that they created the scenario. For one, I guess starting on the bottom, the artwork is exactly the same. So on the left 2 are Kanan, and on the bottom right is Fate Zero. The males look exactly the same. Takeuchi really likes this kind of stoic, kind of medium short hair length, dark, brooding type of guy. More importantly are Kanan's powers. So yes, her powers. So she has synesthesia, which means that she can see the colors of people's auras. In other words, she has mystic eyes. Yeah, this is the official term. It started with Yogi Shiki back in Karma Kyokai, and she has like the strongest mystic eyes of depth perception. And before moving on to Tono Shiki and following works, and Rider and Fate Stay Night has a type of mystic eyes that paralyze people. In any case, you can see that they both have like the glowing eye style, they have the superpowers, and they use this to kill other people, because Kanan is basically a mercenary for Rider. A few years after this, Fractal comes out, and Fractal was done on the Noidamina blog. So if you're not familiar with it, just to explain, it's a blog that aired at a reasonable-ish hour at like 12:30 p.m. or rather a.m. of the next day on Thursday nights. This blog was made specifically to appeal to people who don't commonly watch anime. So a lot of the stories there are more accessible. Okada actually wrote a lot of anime for this. So you can kind of see already that because she keeps coming back and doing anime that fit into this blog, she's a more accessible writer. She writes somewhat more realistic stories in terms of character interactions and the emotions displayed. Unfortunately, there are only 11 episodes in each season. For whatever reason, this is a restriction of the blog itself. She did 7 of the 11 episode scripts. And the thing about Fractal is that it had a simultaneous anime, manga, and novel. There were 3 people involved. It was Okada, and then Yamakan, and then a third person. We'll get to Yamakan in a second. So you'll note that the art for this is really beautiful, right? It kind of looks like a fantasy adventure. It's very detailed. And then you get to the anime, and it's not detailed at all. Anything that Yamakan touches gets really dirty. But more importantly to the plot, something weird happens with the designs. You'll notice on the right that basically Klein, the blonde boy here, the main character, is walking along with Furune and Nessa, and they both have purple hair. And this is for a reason, mainly that they're the same person. Nessa is like a computerized clone of the original Furune, and Furune herself is cloned like 123,000 something. In the anime, Nessa has red hair and green eyes. Furune has brown hair and bluish eyes, and then their adult form, who is the Grand Priestess, finally has the purple hair and purple eyes. This kind of, I feel, it slightly might take away from the plot. You know, when you find out that, oh, they're the same person, and you look back and you're like, they don't look anything alike, and more importantly, their hair is completely different, as well as their features. I don't know who decided to make the character designs for the anime kind of like this, but I feel it kind of, in a superficial way, draws away from the plot. Back to Yamakan, you probably know him. He's from the first 4 episodes of Lucky Star before he was kicked out. Yes, that means he was completely in charge of the first episode of F-Food. That was him. Even though it was taken from the manga, that was his doing. He founded a studio called We're Dead, and is known for other anime such as Kanagi, the Black Rock Shooter OVA, not the anime, and Wake Up Girls. Following this is kind of one of Okada's like greatest works, you know, an award-winning Hana. I won't bother you with the whole title, you probably know it already. Again, this was A1 Pictures again. It was the Noidamina blog, and she did every episode script, which means that it was very kind of tightly written. Everything was meaningful, everything had a purpose, and she had full control kind of over the direction of the story. In the same year, it seems she did Hana Iroha, another kind of classic work. It was done again with the PA Works studio, and it was a little bit special because not only was it the PA Works 10th anniversary series, it was also kind of the kickoff point for Nana Red, who was here doing awesome concerts and Q&As here this weekend. And they also found this anime to be very special. At the Q&A, they were very happy to work on it. They were really kind of touched by it, and it's very important to them. And it kind of shows in the anime itself, because the songs fit so well and kind of adds to it as a whole. It was 26 episodes, so 2 full core, and she wrote half of the scripts. I don't know if I'll have time to get to this, but one of the characters kind of in between two of Okada's scripts, Nako, kind of her personality does a 180 and then comes back when Okada writes her episode. I'm like, wait, that's not how her personality was. This is how it actually is. I'll explain a bit more if we have time. The year after that, she did Aquarium Evol. So this was by satellite, 26 episodes, she did 11 of the scripts. Importantly, it was created by Kawamori Shoji. This was a sequel to the original Genesis of Aquarium, which was probably 5 to 7 years earlier, and was an experiment kind of in the mecha-ish genre for Kawamori to play with mech CG for use in his more popular Macross series. Kind of importantly, this is a 12,000-year sequel to Genesis of Aquarium. For 12,000 years is kind of the time period of the looping of the story of Aquarium. There is a third anime that she has nothing to do with, and that is not even in the same universe, but keeps the same name. It didn't seem that good from the 5 episodes I saw, but the first series and this one, worth a watch if you have the time. You'll have fun, it's very motivational. At the same time as this, the Black Rock Shooter TV anime aired, so different from the OVA. The OVA was 2010 and was unrelated to her. You should probably all know of the origin of Black Rock Shooter being a design by Hugh, or Fuge, however his name is pronounced, and then turned to a Vocaloid song by Miku. So this is produced by Ordette. If you remember, Ordette was actually on studio. It was only 8 episodes. You might think that this would be kind of a limitation, it's 8 rather than 11 or a full series, but what it means in reality is that Okada could take one of her stories and then distill it and compress it into a much more intense, fast-paced anime. So every episode is exciting. The action never stops. This also has a ridiculously amazing voice cast, like Hana, Saoshin Miyuki, Asumi Kana, and so on. It has many famous, amazing voice actresses, and if you care at all about that, the show's worth it just for them, even if not for the plot. In this year, right after, she made AKB 0048, again with Satellite, and again with Kawamori Shoji. You might think, kind of seeing this, if you don't know much about the whole idol subculture, that yes, it's based on the real AKB48, and in fact, the voice actresses for the main 9 understudies are all AKB48 members. But this is a really it's a very well put together series at every aspect. Kawamori knew what he was doing, he got all the right people, he did the right collaborations and the right selection of the voice actresses. And then basically gave the reins of the story to Okada. She wrote all the episode scripts of the first 4, and then 6 out of 12 of the second, so next stage. This is probably, I had a panel on idol anime back on Friday, and besides my #1 favorite, this would be #2, absolutely. While I wouldn't recommend my favorite idol anime to everybody, I would recommend AKB 0048 to everybody. Aikatsu. Yes. Let's see, so next year was Nagi no Asukara. Again, this is very long, like the same length as Hanasaku Iroha. Again, PA works, so you're kind of sensing like she does similar styles of story with PA works, and they all, while they're all different, you all know that they're very high quality. She only did 12 of the episode scripts, but the overall plot lines and continuing themes, which I'll get to a bit later, are very tight and well developed. Next are the Wixoss series. So this is in 2 seasons, each one court each, Infected and Spread. This is done by JC Staff. Don't be turned off by that, because this anime looks and is amazing. The backgrounds are done by Studio Pablo, who are known for making very beautiful hand-drawn backgrounds. If you saw Owari no Seraph, they also did those. So it looks amazing, and the direction itself, even kind of stepping back from this well-developed themes of the story and the interesting characters. The direction and basically everything put together, the music direction, the sound effects, the character designs are beautiful. Each of the lyrics are very unique. There are 12 episodes per season. She did 9 of the scripts of the first and only 5 of the second, so not even half. This was released alongside the card game Wixoss, and has 4 spin-off manga and a novel, which are mostly being translated. So there's lots of content and it's always expanding. The game is still coming out even if it's not that popular over here. It's very beautiful. So even just looking at the cards is really cool. After this, or rather kind of around the same time, she did M3, The Dark Metal. So M3, again with Satellite, directed, I'll say it, I didn't write it, but I've got friends who did panels on it by Junichi Sato. She only did 7 episode scripts though, of the 24. Unfortunately, during my research, I was unable to kind of critically watch this, so I'm not including it very much. It's interesting. The setting is very interesting, and you'll find when I get to it a bit later that some of the ideas and the themes it brings up are going to be used again in Keys 9 here. So ongoing right now is Gundam, Iron Blood, and Orphans.
Second season's confirmed.
So second season's confirmed, I've just been told. I think I also saw that. Obviously, come on, it wasn't going to end with this. They just got to Earth. So, of course, it's Sunrise, it's ongoing, it's Gundam. Maybe it's 25 episodes. I don't think it finished. I'm pretty sure it didn't finish airing yet. And she's done out of
today.
So out of the 21 episodes I've seen, she's done at least 7 of the episode scripts. And finally, the next one, her next anime. Today, we actually got the early preview of the first 2 episodes. So I kind of want to ask, who else was there at 5:30 this morning? One. Thank you. You're my go-to person because you're going to prove that everything I'm going to say about her and her writing is completely accurate. The first 2 episodes were amazing. Really, it's done by Studio Trigger, of course, by one of the episode directors of Kill la Kill, turned into a director. It's his first directing job, but already you can see that he's taking influences from Kill la Kill and old kind of Trigger and Gainax anime, but making it his own. So it's very unique. All right. So Okada is a sister. So what makes her special? When I started doing this panel, I thought to myself, okay, I really like her writing, but I don't have much to say about it. I don't know specific things that she does, that I can actually explain to you and not just say what all the reviewers who give her awards say, like, oh, she writes delicate characters, there are nice character interactions, but what specifically? And I actually found quite a bit of things that carry over through almost all of her originally composed anime. And the first is probably the most surprising. When I was watching, I got like halfway through my list, and I'm like, is this really true? Does it actually follow through? And it does. The most important thing is that there are no misunderstandings. There are not. If there are, they're immediately resolved, or they're not plot relevant. In other words, they happen, but they clear up immediately, or their characters work to clear it up. This explains it fairly well.
海が好きだ。師匠がです。だから光がみんなを誤解したことで、みんなに光を誤解されたくない。ごめん、もう一回言ってくれる？光がみんなを誤解したことで、みんなに光を誤解されたくない。
Yes, thank you, Tsumugu, for immediately trying to clear up any potential misunderstandings before they happen. And this always happens, not just in Nagiase. So from here on out, I'm going to basically give examples that I found in the anime. It's a non-exhaustive list because I already have way too many slides. So I'm going to try and go through at a reasonable pace. On the left we have Sasami. You probably can't see the lyrics, but basically Sasami is telling her friends that her 2 normal friends, the ones that aren't witches, would never be mean to Misao. They're nice people, and there's just a misunderstanding going on. And And what do you know? Within 5 in-episode minutes, she completely clears it up, and they're all good friends. In True Tears, which more of you have probably seen, what happens is that Hiromi lies. And lying is not creating a misunderstanding, it's an intentional deception. Shinichiro asks her about if she remembers an event from the past that they shared. And she says no, she doesn't remember, and then says she sealed it away. Which not only is she lying to herself, she's lying to him. And this is creating kind of a gap that comes back to bite them, which I'll get to in a moment. But kind of moving on, you can see this in Hana Iroha. This is a nice one. Ko says, I don't know. I'm going to assume that most of you have seen a lot of these. I'll give a quick backstory, I guess, before I do each of these. So, Ko and Ohana are the main couple. In the first episode, Ko confesses his love for Ohana, then she moves away, and by the end, they're together. So this is a scene that happens near the end. Ko says, I don't know what kind of misunderstandings you have. Ohana says, come to the Bonmori festival, and then she confesses to him. So basically, upon being told, wait, I think you're misunderstanding something, she says, no, I'm not, I love you. Solved completely. Nice and clean. However, I mentioned that Hiromi lies in True Tears quite a bit, in fact, although not all of it is her fault. There are consequences to lying. You can just look at the images on the bottom left. She's lying to her friend saying, no, I don't love Shinichiro, I love this other person. And then he gets stunned, but even worse than him, she gets completely heart-shattered that he overheard her. She was just telling a white lie to her friend, trying to clear up things, making it easy. And it comes back immediately, in like 10 seconds, to bite her, to say, oops, lying is not the correct way to deal with this situation. So, what happens when she tries to correct the lie and try and actually tell the truth?
私の方が誕生日をするから慎一郎君のお兄さん
それ何じゃ
ほんと冗談みたいだよおばさんに言われたの慎一郎君のお父さんが私の本当のお父さんかもしれないって言っちゃった
So, as it turns out, the fact that she might be half-siblings with Shinichiro was also a lie, fabricated by Shinichiro's mother. So basically this web of lies kind of encompasses them, and even in the last episode, leading up to it, it's like it gets even more convoluted before finally, in one climactic scene in the last episode, they get together. They're not, no. It's to create drama. But it's reasonable drama. Within the series, you find out that Shinichiro's mother was jealous of the close relationship her husband had with Hiromi's mother. So they were close. And basically, after Hiromi's mother dies, and she's kind of taken in by their family to like live in their house, because they have like a very large, that expensive Japanese mansion type of, like a real mansion, not an apartment, house. She takes out all of her frustration and jealousy of the relationship her husband had, non-sexually, on Hiromi. That gets cleared up, fortunately, but at this point she doesn't know that it was entirely a lie. So trying to clear up lies that you made, just even dig the web, dig it deeper, dig the hole deeper. Now, this kind of leads into, so there's no misunderstandings, right? Because everything's either cleared up or a lie. This leads into the honesty of emotion. Okay, from here on out, I'm going to try and remember how many of these I saw in just 2 episodes of Kizunaibir. And this happens immediately in the 2nd episode, honesty of emotion. In other words, characters will tell each other what they are feeling. They don't keep it bottled up. They often explode. Like in True Tears, Hiromi at one point says, oh, I want to be friends with Noe. After that fails, she doesn't kind of brush it under the rug, she admits it. She says, no, I never actually wanted to be your friend. In Hansaku Iroha, we have a scene kind of with Minchi. Minchi loves Toru, who is the cook, and who he himself has a crush on Hana. Yes, it's not just simple love triangles, it's love webs in most of these series. But she resolves herself to say, I'm going to be direct like you told me. I'm going to be honest with my emotions. And she is. And again, back in Sasame, we have Misao. Obviously, the existence of magical girls is supposed to be secret, but when that secret starts to be let out, Misao says, okay, I'm going to tell this boy that he's my friend, my first male friend, and I'm going to tell him. I'm going to be honest. This kind of continues throughout it. In Hansaku Iroha, even Ohana has her own scene. In the Black Rock Shooter, we have Mato, the main character, saying that you have to resolve your problems by talking and explaining your points of view. She basically speaks for Okada here, saying no, fighting, I'll get to the other world in a second. Basically there's a system in Black Rock Shooter where you have an other self who fights for you and takes on all of your emotional burdens. And in this other world, if your other self is killed, then all those emotions go away. And this is kind of pitted against whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, and these two kind of points of view clash with each other. And Mato says, no, you can't rely on these other selves to take away your pain. You need to talk it out and speak with each other to resolve this. Even in AKB 0048, basically we have these successors who are all very serious, like the pro idols, and there's a scene where they're arguing with each other. Nagisa says, please don't fight, and then they immediately laugh and say, no, we're not fighting, we're just sharing. And that there's a difference between fighting and letting others know how you feel. Even if that may lead to conflict, being honest is the right thing to do. So Kaname takes this to its logical extreme, and basically this whole time has kind of been on the sidelines. He's been the third wheel, the fourth wheel, the fifth wheel as more characters keep getting introduced to their group of friends. And he says, I've had enough of staying on the sidelines, I love you, Chisaki. And then her parents walk out of the other room and he says, I just confess my feelings to your daughter. So he is in this scene at least, after bottling everything up to protect others, he says, okay, time to be honest, I've had enough of being on the side and holding everything back. This of course happens in Wixoss as well. This might make later scenes hard to see, but that's okay. So Yuzuki is talking to Hanyo, or Lurik, her special wish-granting magical card that she can use in a sort of Madoka-esque style battle. I don't like saying that because Wixoss almost takes apart Madoka in the ending of the first season. But even here, there's honesty. But even though you're honest with each other, that doesn't mean you even understand yourself. You try to communicate everything that you know, but sometimes you just don't know. Many, or most if not all, main characters in Okada's anime and scripts and stories do not understand themselves. Like Ohana in Hanasaku Iroha spends a day running around trying to convince her mother to come see the inn she works at. She runs into Ko and meets a girl that has a crush on him, and she's doing her best to try and get Ko to look at her, and he won't because Ko is so fixated and obsessed on Ohana. And she says, I don't understand what's going on, too much is happening. It happens in Ohana, basically with Anaru, she's like, I don't know what's going on, especially since there's a ghost of her dead friend running around. That really makes you not know what's going on. In Black Rock Shooter again, basically we have you saying, middle school is really stressful. It's the hardest time of your life. And Mato's like, really? I don't really get that. I don't feel that very much. This keeps going, basically. With Black Rock Shooter, Mato never understands true emotions. But what happens when you don't understand yourself, that can lead to being fearful, being afraid of yourself. In Nagiasu, this happens when Monica doesn't understand when Hikari confesses to her. She's like, I don't know what's going on, too much is happening. In M3, unfortunately, I think this is my only M3 mention, but we have the main character, I didn't write their names, we have the main character in a flashback who hears his brother is dead, and his brother has always been better than him, he's always been jealous, and his brother's girlfriend is like saying, you know, oh my God, your brother is dead, and he's like, why am I smiling? Why am I happy about this? He doesn't understand, and that leads to being fearful of himself. If you've seen Wixoss, then one of the main points of Ruko's character is that nobody understands her, not even her mother. And her mother not understanding her basically led to her abandoning Ruko to live with her grandmother. And Ruko says, basically, in retrospect, I didn't know what was scaring my mother, and that scared me. There is, of course, I brought it up a lot, but it's something that's in almost every anime, which is love. Okada always loves writing about love. And basically, love is every part, in every aspect of her anime. This is from Sasame, so this is her like first trial at love. You can see it's very flowery and traditional shoujo and not very complicated. Not very interesting. In True Tears, there's a much more interesting scene, and this is her next original anime. I think it was 2 years later, but she advanced from that to the scene I'm going to show you. Here we have Shinichiro's best friend here, Miyokichi, and he is actually dating a girl, Aiko. But Aiko secretly loves Shinichiro. In a past episode, they went out shopping, and basically Aiko bought a sweater for herself that Shinichiro liked without telling him. And remember, she's dating him. So let's see how he responds when he hears about this. So incomparably more nuanced. Like you can see the pain, the different levels of expressions on his face, the realization that his girlfriend has loves his best friend who actually put them together, and just it's unsaid, but you can see it. And this is a lot of what happens in her anime. You have to pay attention to what's not said. So love continues in Fractal. There are the 3 levels of Furine. They all have different views on love. Nessa hates hate and loves love. And in contrast, Furine hates love. So contrasting viewpoints on it all throughout. Hanasaku, it's the love story actually takes a backseat to the inn, but at some point, a character literally says, "Love saves the world." I think she says it in English too for extra emphasis. In Black Rock Shooter, we have all the other world girls who fight for the girls to kind of save them and take away their pain. And the reason, but they have no emotions except for love, because they love their true selves. They love the girls, and this is why they fight to the death. I've always love spelled backwards. In AKB, we have saying, "Fighting with weapons only brings pain, and the more you love, the better." Especially in idol anime like this, which is all about delivering love. I mean, they even have love in their name, idol, love doll. That's not actually what it means. And there is an extremely, the one actual male-female love plot that goes throughout AKB, from the very first to the very last episode, between Yuka and Mamoru. This starts before she becomes an idol. And they're dating at this point, but Mamoru says, "If you become an idol, I won't love you anymore." Even so, after she runs away from the planet, she still has feelings for him. And when they return to their planet, after their galactic, traveling all over the place, she says, "I wish he wanted to see me." And at that time, he's actually had a change of heart in the time we haven't seen him. And he says he loves Yuka as an idol, but he doesn't love her as a girl. which is a lie, because in the bottom right you can see, hidden behind his favorite idol is a picture of Yuka that he keeps secretly next to his heart as he fights in life and death battles. This concludes in the very final episode of the second season, matching with the song. You can see, because idols can't have romantic relationships. They need to remain single and pure and not be devoted to one person. And just as at the climax of the battle, like this is probably the most dangerous battle. They're trying to take back their planet, which has been taken over by Des, the anti-entertainment forces. And they're next to each other. They're about to kiss. But in that last second, she realizes, I can't. I'm an idol. So she follows along with the lyrics of the song, and she says, I offer my tears to you if they will help you glow with greater radiance. And that's it. They don't get together. They sing to each other, and they separate. They part ways. Wixoss has incest, but it's not real incest if someone else takes over your body through a crazy magical contract. And also, this is important life lessons. The one you're fated to be with smells good. Remember that. If you meet someone and they smell good to you, you should probably date them and marry them, even if it's incest. That's okay. Even Akira goes from Aki Lucky to Aki Lovely, thanks to the love of Ulith. There's a lot of love. Nagiasu is all based on it, but it kind of attacks it from a different angle. Like, if you don't love anyone, you won't be sad. But Hikari doesn't want to believe it's hopeless to love someone. Okay, what if you lose your love? You completely, after the second half of the series, Monica has her love taken away from her and is unable to love anymore. And they have a debate, like, what does this matter? Is it better for her? Is it worse for her? Saib says it's not anyone's choice but the person themselves, whether they want to love. And this leads kind of to one of the best love confession scenes in anime that I have seen. There's a time skip in the middle of Nagiasu. There's been this love triangle between Tsumugu, Chisaki, and Kaname. Tsumugu is here, and basically he says, I don't love Monica, I love Chisaki. Of course, she overhears this and jumps into the ocean to swim away because she's a fish person and he's not. He jumps in anyway, and due to the plot, and this makes sense, but I have to rush through it, he gets Hana, which is the ability to breathe underwater.
俺の親は海が嫌いだった。海から離れたがらないじいさんを見て街に。でも俺は海が好きだった。海のそばにいたかった。覚えてるか？ごめんな。笑顔たちがお嬢様を壊したんだって光が勘違いして。あの時本当のことを知ってお前は光をかばおうとした。なんて愚かだって思った。人って誰かのためにあんなにみっともなくなれるんだ。いつもは静か、穏やかで、なのに時に激しくて手がつけられないくらい。あの時お前のこと海みたいなやつだなって思った。
I love the sea, and at that time, I thought you would like the sea. She's good at cliffhangers without twists, so without doing crazy plot twists, like with Albino Zero or Prometheus, she hooks you to come back. Birds are not unique to her, but certain types of birds are, like chickens and roosters. She loves them. And True Tears, basically, they run through the entire plot, kind of being used as metaphor for each of the characters, whether they're the rooster that tried to fly but got killed, or the brave one who was actually stuck on the ground but then tried to fly anyway despite that and died. In Hanasaku Iroha, we have the herons, which kind of symbolize the hesitancy in Hana. Birds are like the entire purpose of Black Rock Shooter, because it's told kind of through a metaphor for the story of like the bird's game. Of course, the story is all about how the bird flies around and takes on different colors because the world is beautiful, but by taking on too many colors, it becomes dark and dirty and black, and it falls to the ground and dies. And that's the end of the story. And it does not have a happy ending. Another kind of common thing that happens is friendship bracelets, or rings, or hairbands, or tattoos. She uses this a lot. She also uses bathroom jokes a lot. I did not expect to find 3 separate instances of people saying, let's go pee together. One of them is even men not hanging on the Popo's back. She's really good at using flashbacks properly. Whenever there's a flashback in an episode she's written, it is not the same as it was previously. It will always add something new. It will always be slightly different or from a different character's perspective, especially in Hana, where the entire kind of framework is based on the day that Menma died. Throughout the series, from the first all the way to the last episode, when we finally hear Popo's side of the story, little by little we hear more and more about what happened to Menma on that day and what everyone was doing. This also connects with the story of what Menma's wish is for her to get that granted, and then finally have her able to pass on as it goes to the next world. In Wixoss, Ruko reveals slowly to us memories of her past with her mother, and why she's so creepy and nobody understands her and she scares people. Okada is really good at being subtle and implying things. In True Tears, it doesn't actually work that well because she tries to do it. She tries to be subtle, but then every single time that there's a really nice scene, it's explained immediately after in words. It's like, you see something clever, and then they tell it to you, just in case you didn't get it. Although there is one very kind of nice metaphor she uses. Nobukichi likes eating dropped food. He does that several times. Like, food drops, 3-second rule, he eats it. And he's dating a girl that doesn't like him, but likes his best friend. So he got the leftovers. Kanan, which happens after, does the opposite. It doesn't explain anything, so you have to really dig deep into what you think is being interpreted. In Fractal, it's a world where everyone has avatars that you send out into the world, virtual avatars, and this system isn't explained clearly, intentionally. So we think that the avatars of his parents up there are actually his parents being projected, and that's the way they act. They're kind of cold to him. They're saying they don't need to be near each other to actually love each other. This has kind of a greater meaning when you realize that it's not them, it's a perfectly computed AI of their personality. This is important in one of the later episodes in the middle, where we meet this man who also likes antiques, like playing, and you only find out way at the end that he's actually Plain's father, who is not this horrible, uncaring person you thought he was because of his avatar. He's actually just trying to live his life. He's disconnected from the fractal system, which is how they connect with each other through their avatars. And Plain never finds out that that was his father, even when he gets his camera. Furune is the only person who actually learns this, and it's never actually stated that he's Plain's father. It's only implied in a way that is obvious to understand from photos that she's seen of Plain in the past. You can tell from the first episode here, if you watched Hana, there are hints from episode 1 that Yukiatsu is Manama. You can see that spread throughout a couple of episodes. I'm going to skip this video, which is unfortunate. It's kind of Menma realizing what her wish is. You see a flashback of Menma in the hospital as a child, making a promise to Jinta's deceased mother. And then when she realizes that her wish was granted, and then starts to disappear afterwards, that's not told to you. You don't understand it until the very last episode where we hear her wish, which was to make Jinta cry. In Black Rock Shooter, there is one character who's actually an otherworlder. She doesn't have a shadow. This is incredibly subtle. At least once every episode until they're revealed. On the top left, you can see the no shadow compared to the top right where there is a shadow and a footprint. And then way at the bottom, it's obvious because this is where they're revealing it. But this happens, and people were like, when this was airing, people were like, what's going on? Are these animation errors? And eventually we figured, no, they're definitely not. That's not you, that's actually your otherworldly strength. In AKB, we kind of find out some things about Chibi's personality. I'm actually going to skip ahead to the next section because I've kept way too many things in here. You can see just how much of this I wanted to include. Don't play green. Green decks suck unless you're grandma, in which case you beat everyone with green. That's basically the advice Wixoss gives you. Yes, Wixoss is real. What about it? In the meta, I don't know. In the anime, yes.
Yes, it does still suck. Even with the expand.
Okada loves music and song. In almost every single one of her anime, there is song. From Kanan, to the Roach song in True Tears, to the Daystar song in Fractal, which actually comes from a popular idol song from before the Fractal system existed. There's the chant in Nagiasu, which then becomes much more popular. And these are anime that are not focused on music, they just have that included as a very important plot point. Where it really comes in are in the two series. The first one is on Hana, where they used as an ending theme and as a theme for the entire anime, the song Secret Base by Zone. This was released 10 years before Hana, and in the song it actually speaks of 10 years passing. So there's kind of a meta where the song says we'll meet again in 10 years, and then the anime happens 10 years after this. Throughout the anime, there are constantly references to lyrics of the song, like having fireworks, or talking about the summer, or writing letters, or having phone calls. Black Road Shooter is obviously based on a song. And then AKB uses songs to great effect. Basically, every song and scene in the anime where it occurs is linked. The song, I've Been Waiting, is the very first song when the idol group AKB0048 comes to see new audiences, and they're like, we've been waiting to meet you. Beginner is the first song that the understudies actually train to. Anti, or I guess Hater is one of the English translations of it, is in the episode that is about the hater of one of the idols. Heart-shaped virus actually explains why all of the idols have heart-shaped pupils and then hearts in their hair. And you can see that the little girl there, it's not animated, but she had normal pupils until she was infected by the heart-shaped virus from them singing it to her. One of the most powerful ones, though, is The Wind is Blowing, Kaze wa Fuiteru. This was written after the 2011 nuclear disaster, basically for Sendai and Fukushima and that whole area. And this song is sung when their home planet, the Akita star, gets burned to the ground, basically completely destroyed. She's into the next point, since I'm seriously running out of time and I include way too much. Parallelisms, like in Hanasaka Iroha, we have the exact same text message sent from Ohana's mother, to which which says, do your best, and she's like, yeah, easy for you to say. Or when Ko sends the same thing, and she says, or she has a look on her face like, thank you, I really want to hear from you. In AKB, Chiyoda and Nagisa say, in episodes 2 and then 17, way later, the same line, I won't be easy to beat. There's a continuous plotline through Nagiasu, where basically Hikari is the descendant of the original sea god. When I originally saw this, I didn't really understand how deep a connection was it. It was, but if you've seen the anime, just bringing up a couple points. Basically, the sea god fell in love with a girl who loved someone from the surface. He was under the mistaken impression that that girl wanted to cast away all the love he gave her. And so he says, okay, well, I will let you go back to your love on the surface, but in exchange you won't be able to love anymore. And it's only at the very end where both Hikari and the sea god, in the form of Kuroko-sama, realize that the person they loved also loved them back. So the parallels run really deep with this comparison. Hitoe and Chiori actually have perfectly parallel plots. They both started as loners that hung out in the same library. They both couldn't make any friends. Both of their Ludwigs, their cards, wish that they weren't with their selectors. And then at the very last line that each of them says is, I loved you. So it actually ran way deeper, way more connected than I originally thought. And I thought that was a really cool touch, because these happen the 2 separate seasons, Infected and Spread. She's really good at thematic development. Hopefully I'll be able to pick out one really good one. Basically, she has a theme for everything, and those themes are often about change and becoming adults. But each series treats change in a slightly different way. 5 years have passed since men have died, so everyone says, we haven't changed, our time has been stopped since men have died. What kind of adults are we going to be? And we have several instances of like different kinds of adults, their parents, and who they might or might not aspire to be like. They're the themes of flowers, of course, because we don't remember the name of the flower we saw that day, where Menma herself is reincarnated as a forget-me-not at the very end. We have colors and macarons. Everyone loves them, except for the ugly colors, which Mato gets all of, because she is invading on Kayoru's privacy. But much more deep within Black Rock Shooter is the theme of pain. One of the themes is that you need pain to connect with other people. Does that sound familiar to a series coming out soon? I haven't actually been mentioning that, but most of these themes were present in the first 2 episodes of Kisneider already. So that's kind of, and this presentation was made before like knowing anything about the series itself. And in those 2 episodes that I saw this morning, I can see already, most of these are already present. Kisneider, Okada wrote the scripts for every episode. It's entirely hers, which means that she can do everything that she's used to, put a new twist on it, and make it awesome again. So back to pain. There's a scene in the bottom left, it's hard to say. Kayoru has a needle, and she said, and Yomi is suffering. And Kayoru says, I'll carve that suffering out of you. And you think it's a metaphor, right? Like, oh, there's no way she would actually literally carve the suffering out of her until she does. So you see her otherworlder and her actual self, Yomi, in the real world, both have a heart. Again, bringing love back into the equation. Carved out of them to try and get rid of the suffering. But trying to get rid of that suffering, like, through cheating ways only leads to kind of apathy, which is the opposite of love. And kind of the conclusion is Mato saying, I'm tired of running away, I will accept this pain, and I will hurt you. Basically, she's saying, I will hurt you, I will connect with you. And this is her way of finally getting past her last kind of blockade. All of these are cool themes that I'm skipping by. I mean, it's way too long. Wixoss is obviously very heavy on the card metaphors, both visually and in the script itself. In tons of lines, they're talking about turning over, or reversing, or flipping over cards. Because the whole thing is based on the Wixoss card game. Skip past this. Okay. Inter-series similarities. I wish I could talk about that. Next time I do this, I swear I'll make it less long. There's a thing about 12,000 years for some reason. Aquaria and Evil and Kanan both mention 12,000 years as a reference to each other, to the original Aquarium. Kanan, basically, Leon torturing Mari is exactly the same scene as Akira torturing or kicking Hitoe. Both of them are crazy lesbians that kick another girl that's tied up and then are beaten down by the girl they love. Same exact scene. In Hana and Nagiasu, the same exact confession scene happens, where someone says, okay, you love this person, admit it. They're cheap, regular references to like True Tears and Hatsuki Iroha. Both in Anohana and Black Rock Shooter, you have the no shadow thing going on. How many people have seen Wixoss? How many of you have seen Black Rock Shooter? Really? Okay, this is for you. So we have a girl, so we have friends who say, I have this friend, but I don't really understand her. This friend, this person, their mother doesn't understand them either. You know, she doesn't really have, this girl, my daughter, doesn't have any complaints. I don't really get her. She's trying to be an adult too quickly. They have a green-themed friend who loses her memories of her other friends, and whenever she thinks of them, she feels pain. And we have a white girl haired girl who is scared of reality. Okada has a habit of writing best girls, all very the best archetypes, and also, for whatever reason, Kaino Ai shows up in many anime. Even in addition to these 5 main roles, she's played minor characters in Hanasaku Iroha and AKB 0048. So somehow I finally made it to the end after skipping a bunch of stuff. Any questions kind of in the last minute here?
What do you predict for Kusanagi? Given what you already know about.
So most of the things I mentioned already showed up. So I'm expecting more of that. I haven't thought about it because I didn't sleep last night and I'm feeling kind of woozy at this point. I'm amazed I made it through without collapsing. But I'm expecting good anime. That is what I'm expecting. It's going to be very entertaining. It's going to incorporate more love, definitely. Lots of love. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a song that was very important, that kind of, and the lyrics kind of embody the theme of it. The opening and ending did not show in this morning's live stream for whatever reason. Maybe, I don't think that was Crunchyroll's fault, because we seem to be getting the same thing Japan did.
They didn't have it in the rebroadcast either, so maybe they just haven't put it all together yet.
Yes, so it wasn't in the rebroadcast either. They don't want to give it to us, I guess. Maybe it's not ready yet. I mean, you would think it would be. It's kind of important. And Trigger usually has a good habit of making things on time. Okay, thank you for coming. The con's almost over. I'm glad you spent some of your last time on Sunday here. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.